We're back at Randon Real Estate on 77 WABC and WABC Radio, broadcasting from the Small Business Authority studios in Midtown Manhattan. I'm Greg Rand. This is Randon Real Estate. I'm with Laura Smith. How are you?
Wonderful as always. Thank you.
We're having a great time so far here, and I want to start touching on now these 3 drivers of real estate wealth. I told you that I'm going to show you how to make money here, and that's what it's about. I want you to call me, though. 800-848-WABC. That's 800-848-9222. And ask me about the market that you've been dreaming about, because I know there's one, okay? You live, if you're hearing my voice, most likely in the New York metro area, or you could be on the web, you could be anywhere. But if you're in the New York metro area, chances are you go on vacation someplace else. Chances are you dream about buying real estate there whenever you go there, right? You pick up a Homes magazine and you sort of allow yourself to daydream about it. So let's talk about that, because daydreaming can turn into action pretty quickly if you know what you're doing and you know how to research. And today is the best time ever to be a researcher, to start using the power of what's on the web and the technology that's out there, to start digging in and finding out, are those places you've been dreaming about living the later part of your life, are those the kind of places you want to start placing bets on now? So call me, 800-848-9222, and I'm going to jump now to one of those places that I mentioned earlier in the show, Raleigh, North Carolina, which has defied the housing meltdown. Just to set it up for you, Raleigh, North Carolina has, over the last 10 years, the median sale price in Raleigh was $150,000 just about 10 years ago. And it's $200,000 now. Okay. If you're looking at the chart like I am right now, it is a straight line up, not straight up. Okay. Gradual line up, but it has not been affected. And there are reasons for that. And so we're going to have somebody on the phone now who knows a lot about this. She's a very prominent real estate broker and a servicer of investors down there. Her name is Kimberly Conroy. How are you, Kimberly?
I'm doing great. Thank you, Greg.
Well, thanks for being on the show with us.
My pleasure.
So now you're an original, right? You've been down in Raleigh your whole life?
Yes, I'm original. I'm a native. Okay. I've watched the city grow.
So I can tell. I don't know what something about just hearing your voice gives me the idea that you're not fibbing with us here. You've been there for a long time, and you've seen the place change and grow. And so one of the things that I saw when I began to scratch the surface on Raleigh is the incredible migration pattern going there. There are people going there. Now, give me the top 3 reasons you can think of. You know it. They're there. They're customers of yours. Why are people coming into the area?
People come to the Triangle for the quality of life. We have the top schools in the nation. We have wonderful weather, and we have a very diverse employer basis, which is really important because you don't have to depend on one industry to survive. So there's a lot to offer. Now,
when you say the Triangle, is that's Raleigh, Durham, and Chapel Hill? Do I have that right?
Those are the 3 main cities in the area when we talk about the Triangle, and then there are, of course, bedroom communities around as well.
And you mentioned the university. I know Duke is one of those. What are the other 2 big universities? I forget.
UNC, Tar Heels, okay. NC State, Wolfpack.
Okay, so you've got tens of thousands of students in that area and all the support services behind them. And because they fall in love with the area when they come down there, they stay, they get jobs. Those are some of the major employers there, too. All the research those companies do, or those schools do. But then you've got IBM, you've got, I think, Cisco, right?
We've got Quintiles, right. We've got a lot of biotechnology now, which is really growing sector here. And we see a lot of folks relocating to the Triangle for that industry right now.
It's really interesting. So you've got a market here that didn't really share in the big party during what I call the roaring 2000s, right? When you guys were opening up the newspaper and seeing that Las Vegas appreciated at 18% year over year, what were you seeing in your market at that time?
We were really happy with 2 to 4%. That was our big year, I think, was right at 2007 when we were seeing close to 5%. But prior to that, 2%, 3%, 4%, kind of steady as she goes.
They so boring, though, Kimberly.
That's what?
I said that's so boring. Didn't your friends in South Florida and Las Vegas tease you when you were they were bragging about 18 and 22% and you were only getting 4%?
When I would have buyers in the car and they would ask me, tell me about the appreciation, and I would say, well, it's about 2 to 4%. They would just laugh and say, well, where we are, and they would go into these great rates, 10%, 15%, 20%. We didn't have that. And, at first they felt that this market wouldn't be a strong market to invest in, but they have found out since then that it has been a strong market to invest in because we are staying steady. We're not losing value. We have areas that continue to appreciate because the area is so strong in growth.
Yeah, I also checked out, what we teach people here to do is to start their research stepping way back. All right, pick a market first. Before you go chasing a property, a lot of people that I found when they want to become an investor, the first thing they do is they hear about a foreclosure, they hear about a property for sale, and they start chasing that property. Wrong way to go. First thing you do is think about the market, identify a place that has demographics in its favor, right? Population growth, migration, quality of life, and employment. And what I saw when I researched Raleigh is that your employment rate has gone down. You're like at about 7%, if I have the number right, and you're down a full percentage point from last year. You're almost 2 points below the national average, and it's gaining steam right now.
It is. That's good news. We did have a little hiccup there like the rest of the country did, but we seem to be recovering here with that. And I do believe it is because that the way our education brings different people here from the universities, that transpires into growth in industry, and we have more jobs coming on the market. We have a lot of private small businesses that are growing. Again, that brings more employment to the area, so we're seeing a lot of growth.
So now, with respect to investors specifically, I know that you work with investors down there, and what are they? What is their attitude right now? Are they finding that there's demand for rentals? If they're going to buy a single family or a two family or a couple of condos to rent out, are they seeing the circumstances being right for that kind of a decision?
Absolutely. Right now, because of the lending industry, a lot of people are afraid to buy their first home, so they're looking to the rental market. Because of the lending guidelines, some people are trying to collect that 20% down so they can buy a home. So there is a huge demand for nice rental property. When I have a person say to me, Kimberly, I need to rent for a year before I can buy, and I start looking for rentals, the market is so slow. There's very, very little out there for them, and before I can even drive to the house, a lot of times these other homes are rented. Because people, renters want good homes, they want good neighborhoods, they want good schools, so they want these good properties, and they're out there. They're out there, and they're near the good schools, and they're near the employers, and they're near the major roads.
That's great to hear. We're talking to Kimberly Conroy from Coldwell Banker in Raleigh, North Carolina, about the investment potential down there. Now, I mentioned also that the median sale price now is just at about $200,000, and the people in New York, you can't get much up here for $200,000. And so, a lot of people still try to get out there and do it by the skin of their teeth. They want to get out and try to, they hear about these no money down, low money down things. They're not around anymore. Obviously, that's all gone. But there are people with cash. There are a lot of people out there that didn't live above their means, that didn't spend their last dollar, didn't tap all their equity. They've been sitting on the sidelines with their cash trying to find something to do with it. And are you finding in Raleigh that if somebody comes in and puts down 30 or 40% on a property, are they able to make money on a monthly basis, meaning positive cash flow to cover their expenses with their rent?
They are, especially in the price point that we're talking about, the average sales price, median sales price. Those are the ones that you can put that 30% down and get your rents. Now let's talk where an average home rent would be. To give you an idea, most of the rentals are about $1,600 a month for just a family home.
Okay, and that's going to be enough to cover the taxes in your state. You have one of those states that's run by responsible people. Is that right? So like you're not going bankrupt.
Well, I think that's debatable right now, depending on what party you're a member of. But the taxes are great, and that's one thing I wanted to touch on because, you can focus on price and you can focus on other things about buying a home. But the things that are important here that I've learned from dealing with folks from your area is the surprise factor when they get here. And I share with them how much their closing costs are going to be because your closing attorney, the whole process is like $500. And you don't have two attorneys who get together and kind of duke out your contract. It's very buyer-seller friendly. The closing attorney actually represents the seller for approximately $125. So that saves the investor a lot of money because you're not having to shell out a lot of money for the closing costs.
So they can find, so they're not trying to find reasons to pick a fight with each other in order to earn their fee. I get it, right?
Right, because that builds up your costs. And so it's pretty straightforward. It's a very buyer-friendly market right now anyway. But the cost that you need in addition to your down payment, because you have to look at both of those, your down payment and your closing costs, Your closing costs are going to be, you've got your lender fees, but the other costs out there are very small. And then the taxes are fairly inexpensive. For example, on a home that's $200,000, your taxes are going to be $2,000 a year if you're in the city, and about 60% of that if you're in the county.
Did you say $2,000 a year?
Mm-hmm. I did.
Not a month?
No, I did. Yeah, that's when I usually hear the gasp in the car when people start talking about taxes. And we get a lot for that. This area is absolutely beautiful. The city is wonderful. It's very well managed. There's a lot to do, so you get a lot for your money. I always say it's the best money you ever spend are your taxes in the Triangle.
That's fantastic. Okay, we're talking to Kimberly Conroy for Coldwell Banker HPW. Kimberly, how would somebody listening find you? What's your website?
If they would email me at Conroy, CONROYK, at HPW.com, I'll be able to get right back in touch with them.
Okay, wonderful. Well, thank you so much for being on the show. I think, what I also think came across here is that there are these cultural things that draw people to a certain place, and you can talk about employment and migration and value and everything else, but just the sound of your voice and the kind of person that you sound like, you just sound like a nice person. I get the feeling that that's one of the reasons why people are drawn to that part of the country. It's just, that Southern hospitality and all that. So this was a great call.
Well, I hope so. We welcome everyone. I even married a man from New Jersey. So everybody's welcome.
Fantastic. Thank you, Kimberly, for being on the show. I appreciate it.
You're so welcome.
Okay, you're listening to Rand on Real Estate on 77 WABC. Call us, 800-848-WABC. And if you're on the line, stay with us. We're going to get to you right when we get back from the break. Back in a minute.